in a New York Post op-ed. Senate candidates like JD Vance and Blake Masters say we must stop Facebook from meddling in the elections. Yes, please. The candidates writing in this op-ed, it's not going to be easy, suggesting that anything and everything that went wrong in the 2020 election draws immediate scorn from every institutional power center in our country. The media, of course, will label you a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, I know the feeling. Public officials will accuse you of abetting the insurrection. Yep, been there. Social media giants will censor your speech, done that. But the only way to fight back against the people who run things in our country is to tell the truth, damn straight. And the simple truth is that in 2020, our oligarchs used their power and money to do everything they could to steal this election, end quote. I believe that to be the truth. JD Vance joining us once again, running for Senate in my home state, the Buckeye State. OH, JD.
I-O. How you doing, man?
There you go, brother. Well, you know, it's such a blase question, right? We always go, how you doing? I'm doing great. No, I'm not doing great. I don't think you're doing great. I don't think Ohio's doing great. I know California's not doing great. The country's not doing great. We've got multiple crises, okay, thanks to this administration. Now they're taking the hearings that we had with Facebook a few months ago and something you just wrote the op-ed about, and they're going to use what Facebook and these oligarchs are doing to censor conservatives and tie it all to the insurrection and say, well, we need more control so we can stop this hate speech, bullying, and horrible things that happen. Yet then guess what's going to happen? Our free speech is going to get stifled even more, so we can't talk about the corruption of the 2020 election. Right, JD?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So big tech basically did two things, I think, to rig the 2020 election. The first is that they basically censored negative information about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and they promoted negative information about President Trump. But the bigger and more catastrophic thing that they did is that Zuckerberg put $420 million into controlling these local boards of elections. And if you think about this, these local boards of elections should be accountable to the people. They should not be doing the bidding of a single tech oligarch to effectively buy votes for the Democrat Party. But that is what happened. The more that we learn about this, the more that we realize that basically one of the wealthiest and most powerful people in our society went full bore with the left and used that wealth and that power to buy votes for Democrats. If that's not rigging an election, I don't know what the term even means.
I know. And that's the whole thing. There's so much more to when I say the phrase a rigged election or corruption, and people on the left immediately want to label me exactly what you wrote in that op-ed, that I'm a conspiracy theorist, that I'm bringing up the big lie. No, the big lie is that this was the safest, most protected, untouched election in American history, which is what the left is spewing out there, even some traitor Republicans, which is BS. It was not. And again, I'm not talking about the local tally person who might have taken 50 ballots and run them through 4 times for Joe Biden, because we know that happened, or people voting for dead people, we know that happened. There was all kinds of stuff day of and day before with the mail-in. This is much deeper what you're talking about, JD, and this is election interference and corruption, and it's been going on before this election as well. Let's be real.
Yeah, it probably has been, but I don't think anything on this scale has happened in this country.
The amount of cash.
420 million. Yeah, the $500 million is just crazy. And what these people say is that they were just trying to, help our election system deal with COVID. Well, if that was true, why not spend money in rural areas where there are going to be more Republican voters than in urban areas where Democrat votes are heavily focused? Or if that's true, why not spend as much in California or in non-battleground states as you're spending in the big battleground states that ultimately swung the result in 2020. This was not about securing our elections. This was about influencing and buying our elections. And we just need to be honest about this fact. The one good thing I take away from this is it's clear what we have to do. I think so much of us looked at 2020 and say, well, what do we do given all of the corruption that took place? And the answer is we have to get the big tech money and the big tech censorship out of our election process. This is something we have the power to do. We just need the weak-willed Republicans to actually stand for something and to do it.
Yeah, the problem is I watch those hearings and I know what's going to happen. I said it right at the beginning of this interview with you, JD, is they're going to take this information and they're going to wrangle in Facebook and the rest of social media, and since the Dems are in control, and will push an agenda to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the rest of them. They will continue to, and I think it'll be a whole new scale, stifle and censor and shadow ban conservatives and anything out there negative about the radical liberal agenda. That's what they're going to do with it. I want to switch gears because you were very, very vocal last time you were on the program, and so have I been. I've been as well because I've been going to my child's school board meeting, and I wanted your reaction to this because just I think it was yesterday or early today, we learned that the state of Missouri and Ohio, thank goodness, now has terminated their membership with the National School Board Association. And we know the NSBA, they're the ones behind the letter to the White House that ended up, let's be real, I think, then a letter went to the AG, even though he says he didn't talk to the White House about it. And that's why our Attorney General is now going after parents and using the FBI to call them, you know, intimidation, harassing type folks and saying that they're going to do harm to school boards. I love that these two states are standing up, even though there was an apology and a retraction from the NSBA. I love that these states stood up and said, you know what? We're deleting our membership with these clowns.
Absolutely. It shows there's a lot of fight in the state of Ohio, and I'm glad and proud of that fact. I mean, at the end of the day, the only way to reduce the power of these organizations, like you said, they basically use the attorney general to weaponize the people's government against their free speech. The only way to stand up against this is to start to withdraw and to start to reduce the control these organizations have. I'd love to see every other state in the union follow Ohio, follow Missouri, cut ties with this terrible organization, because that's the only way that we're actually going to fight back against these folks is by reducing their power and withdrawing from these membership organizations.
Yeah, the Garcia woman, I think is her last name, at the National School Board Association that wrote that and drafted that letter, just got promoted too. Right after she drafts that letter, I believe, wasn't it like within the same week, right? And she called me, because I've been going, and all of you parents out there, JD, I don't know if you have kiddos and you've been going, they called us domestic terrorists. I mean, literally, right, in the letter, she's saying, I'm a terrorist for going to my child's school board meeting and pointing out that they are instituting mandates, not laws, that are putting my child at risk, that they're teaching them CRT BS, that they're over-sexualizing sex ed class in 5th grade. I'm a terrorist for bringing that up, JD.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know who's not a terrorist? The person who puts on a BLM T-shirt and throws a Molotov cocktail at a federal courthouse in Portland or Madison. But the people who are terrorists are the people who show up and speak on behalf of their children. It is such an upside down moral universe the Democrats have put us in. That's why we got to fight back against it, man.
Yeah, it's like the we were discussing yesterday on the program. It's like those climate activists who stormed the Interior building last week in Washington, D.C., and no mainstream media covered it, and the pictures looked like January 6th. They stormed through security, pushed their way into a federal building, all in the name of climate change, and not one mainstream media person covered it, and the Democrats won't even discuss it. And when the AG was pressed on it, under oath, he didn't even know it occurred, he said. I didn't know they breached a building in Washington, D.C. Aren't you the top cop of the nation? Such BS. JD, want to help you out with the campaign. Wish I was living back there. I'd help you out even more. How do folks donate, volunteer, learn more about your campaign?
Yeah, best place to go is jdvance.com. They can learn more about our issues, they can volunteer, or they can support us with resources if they're interested. But certainly for those who live in the state of Ohio, we're constantly going around. We're constantly doing meet and greets with voters all over the state. Come out and meet me. Come out and ask me a question, an easy question, a hard question. The only way we're going to actually take this country back is to get involved in this fight very directly. That's what I'm trying to do, and I need help.
And just to clarify for Buckeyes, too, and for me, this is for Portman's seat that he's vacating because he decided not to run again. So this is the weak-kneed Republican. I don't really have too many positive things to say about Mr. Portman, sorry, as he's on his way out the door. That's the seat you're running for, correct?
That's right. Next November 2022, but Portman is retiring, and yeah, we're trying to replace him.